bullies, fashionistas, 14-year-olds in the restaurant Sizzler. All this and more in today's episode of r/ProRevenge. In case you're new, my name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's top stories. Before I do though, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button, as well as make sure you got notifications turned on, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. My wannabe fashionista coworker always threw shade at me for being frumpy. She looked frumpier, unemployed. I worked at a popular high-end clothing store while I was in graduate school. I'm an engineer. I won't name the brand, but it's the sort that charges $50 for a pair of male boxer briefs, $200 for a lady's fancy bra, $400 more for a pair of jeans, and $1,000 or more for those skinny suits that hip guys wear to their job, where the hems of the pants reveal that they're wearing loafers without socks. The clothes there weren't really my style, but starting pay was $2 higher than minimum wage and higher than most other surrounding stores. That was a rich people shopping center where lots of people who shop there are wannabe celebrities and constant selfie takers. I was surprised to get hired there, but was relieved that I wouldn't have to really do customer service, as I only worked in the stockroom. I'd put clothes out on the shelves and racks before and after closing, and also arrange everything in the back to make it organized. I was also trained so that in emergency situations, I could cover the register if we were short-handed, so that the regular associates could still go on break. I was hardly seen by customers, but still had to wear the clothes that the store sold, to promote the image of the company. I didn't, thankfully, have to wear the dainty little suits, but I did sport the jeans and other casual things we sold. It was a job. I didn't love it, and I didn't hate it. I just worked, took my pay, went to school, and went home. At least that's the way it was for 2 months. After those 2 months, Jessica began working during the same hours as me. She was about my age, as I was 22 at the time, no more than maybe 25 tops. She didn't work in the stockroom, it was just me back there with 1 or 2 other college guys, but rather she worked the front. She wasn't the manager or even a supervisor, but she swore she was in charge of me. She made it known to everyone, even customers, that she graduated with an associate's degree in fashion marketing from FIDM. I suppose it's a big deal, but I was thinking, girl, if you're a college graduate, then why are you bragging about it as if it's something to do with your folding jeans and ringing people up at the register? She talked like she was a fashion expert and in the industry, and would talk about the New York or Paris fashion weeks in a familiar way that implied she just got off the plane after attending the events personally. You know the type, the kind that talks about famous fashion designers by their first name as if they knew them. Well, she always criticized the way I wore the jeans because I didn't tuck in my shirt like the mannequin, or that I worked Chuck Taylors on my feet instead of the little leather Sperry topsider knockoffs we sold for $300. We were given a clothing allowance as employees. As a stock person, I was allowed 3 complete outfits for free, everything from tops to underwear to socks and pants, but not shoes. If I wanted more, and it was specifically for wearing at the store, I could mark it as a uniform purchase and have the price deducted from my check a little at a time. This was advantageous because they wouldn't charge you tax for them, and charge you only 1/3 of the retail price. Uniform purchase was distinctly separate from store discount, for which we also received a percentage off, but it wasn't the incredible 66% discount we got for uniform purchases. Jessica would snicker at me when I took over the register for someone, shake her head or roll her eyes at me as if I looked really ugly. I'm always thinking, whatever girl, you want to be model, you aren't even hot and you're not the boss. Who are you? But I held my tongue. She'd also complain if I was supposedly not fast enough in grabbing a size medium from the back because a customer's requesting the dress and all we have on the floor are smalls and larges. She'd trash me to the customer when I showed up and would sarcastically say, "Finally!" and turn to the customer with a "see what I have to put up with" expression. She was especially mean if any customers got chatty with me and treated me with respect. And if those customers were female and getting flirty with me, Jessica would be a total cockblock. The real manager, Paula, about 35, had their own issues to deal with beyond petty bickering between a stock boy and an entry-level sales associate with delusions of Project Runway grandeur. The assistant manager, another fashion industry wannabe named Heather, was just like Jessica, but thankfully I hardly interacted with her. According to my coworkers, Heather was just as bad as Jessica, except Heather had keyholder privileges, which meant she was one step above being just as worthless as the rest of us. She looked to be in her late 20s. Even though I didn't plan on making this store my career, and even though Jessica didn't bother me that much, I thought it wouldn't hurt to get this bitch fired. To face her, I'd just smile and act as though I was following her orders happily, or didn't mind when she would point at me rudely or snap her fingers at me like she was calling a dog. Jessica would always hear a directive from one of the managers and then go around telling other employees what to do as though they didn't have ears. She'd try to act as though it was her directive. Her coworkers, who were the same rank as her, would sometimes vent to me about how Jessica acted as though she were in charge, when in some cases she had even less time in the company than other employees on the floor. I noticed that when I arranged clothes in the back, especially big-ticket, desirable clothes that were seen in magazines in our company's advertisement campaigns, she'd order me to set aside those things in her size. I'd do it because it's my job to set aside things if employees want to buy them outright at a discount or put it in as a uniform purchase. Whenever an employee was on register, really big iPad with a cash drawer beneath, you could tap in a code and the register would show a rundown of every non-customer transaction that employees performed that day, and with a few more keystrokes, their transactions over many days. The managers knew this code, of course, and I'll assume Jessica knew the code too because Heather shared the code with her. The code pretty much unlocked all of the register's managerial functions. I wasn't supposed to know the code, but I did, because there's a mirror in the wall behind the register, and I was restocking paper handbags behind Heather when I saw her tap in the 4-digit code. She assumed I was stupid and didn't understand the incredibly complex wizardry that's a 2-year-old low-end spec iPad. I knew Jessica was getting rung up for uniform purchases when she should have been getting rung up for the regular employee discount. She'd assumed that when I set aside all those expensive items for her, I was too dumb to know what she was doing, just because I might have something of a mouth breather countenance. Unfortunately, even if I look on the surface like a fugitive from the trailer park, something told me Jessica wasn't going to be using $800 heels, a $500 dress, and a $1,200 motorcycle jacket, all while working at the store. And anyway, I asked around. No one saw Jessica wearing any of the truly fancy clothes she bought at our store at what the other employees assumed was a simple, regular discount. I thought maybe she was being honest, too. It was possible. After all, because I didn't always work with her, maybe she wore evening dresses to work with her on her other shifts. Whatever, I decided to make sure. One time, when everyone was busy doing other stuff and the store had to resort to putting me on the register, I typed in Heather's code and pulled up Jessica's purchases. As I suspected, she had bought thousands of dollars worth of store's best items and put them all as uniform purchases, and not at her regular discount. So I swiped print, and the register switches from the regular tape to the 8.5 by 11 printer beneath the counter, and a complete rundown of all of Jessica's purchases come out. I highlight all of the most expensive items that were charged for uniform purchases, such as her $1,200 jacket that would only be $300, and even that was tax-free, and she got to pay it little by little. I knew my manager Paula wasn't exactly a nuclear physicist, and she was more interested in moving up the chain of command so that she could have a job higher than store manager in the company, so as long as her store sales numbers looked good, she didn't care what her assistant Heather did. Except if it was a violation of company policy that might reflect badly on her. I knew Heather was in on Jessica's scam because you're not allowed to ring yourself up at the store, so you have to have someone else do it, and none of the other associates would want to conspire with her for fear of getting fired or worse. To make sure, I printed Heather's purchase history too. I didn't see Heather as often as I saw Jessica, but I could also see really glaring red flags on her purchase report, like a $900 nightclub dress as a uniform purchase, which I'm quite sure she never wore to work. I did the same highlighting on suspicious items as I did with Jessica's. Then, because none of this was really my business, I was just a part-time a-hole who worked in the stockroom after all, I waited for the most fun opportunity to lower the boom. Jessica got on her little Bluetooth earpiece that she makes thinks her look like a VIP and says,
OP, I'm gonna need blank in a size small. Customer waiting. Get the lead out.
So I bring the item and Jessica says,
Not passing muster.
I thought, wow, Jessica, you sounded really 1940s there. You wanna be pinup girl? After the customer leaves, Jessica says,
I'm gonna need you to go on a trash run and sweep out the receiving bay, and I need you to cover Annie's lunch.
I laugh and tell her, who died and made you supervisor, you fucking badass burnout? She looked like she was the damn crypt keeper for a second and that she wanted to punch me, before she remembered that I'm 6'2" and outweighed her by about 100 pounds. She hisses,
You are so fired, you fucking geek. Heather's going to hear about this.
I tell her, I'm going to lunch, and I clock out and leave. When I come back, I see Jessica immediately get on her little earpiece. Before I even reach the stockroom, Heather's there, and the manager Paula intercepts me. Paula says to a nearby worker, Annie, can you cover register? We have an urgent matter to deal with. I know I'm supposed to be fired, which is why during my lunch I went to the copy place and made a PDF scan of the printouts I made of Jessica and Heather. I had all the corporate big shots emails. They were in the new hire handbook all of us got when we started working. I saved a draft to each, but didn't hit send yet. I had the printouts as attachments. It was the body of my email. I described exactly what's been going on. I did send one email, and that was to Paula, the manager herself. But I didn't press send until we were on our way to the employee break room. Paula tells me, OP, Heather sent me a text that says you were verbally abusive to Jessica. Heather herself tells me that Jessica's complained on numerous occasions that you're a substandard employee, and only Heather's own personal kindness has prevented her, as your supervisor, from presenting your name to me on termination. I came in myself on my day off, I might add, to see if you have anything to say in order to save your job. It's been a couple of years, so that of course can't be exactly what she said, but it was something typical and rehearsed and faux professional that any low-level boss would say when trying to sound important. I said I didn't have anything to say in my defense, and that in fact I quit. Jessica and Heather looked surprised, but then Jessica started smiling. She had won, she thought. Paula looked disappointed and said, I'm very sorry to hear you say that. At least for me, you've always done your job well. You may collect your last. Oh, but before I go, I think you should look at these printouts. I know you don't spend a lot of time studying this stuff, but I thought you might find it interesting. It's the last 3 months of Jessica and Heather's employee purchases. Notice how they always ring each other up, and notice all that stuff they're claiming to use as uniforms, $1,000 evening dresses, stiletto heels. Fascinating. Anyway, if you have any trouble understanding it, I explained it all in the email I sent to your cell phone. You should have it already if you check. I have the same email ready to go to Dan and Pam and Kimberly and Victor and Kevin because I thought they'd get a kick out of it too. But I haven't sent it yet. I was hoping you could look it over and email me back when you're ready. I mean, if you want me to edit anything, after all, you are the manager, and I assumed you had your suspicions about these two disgusting thieves already, since it's your job to keep on top of things. I turned to Heather. I borrowed your code. You know, the same one you loaned to Jessica. Hope you don't mind. Later. Then I got up and left. I had the pleasure of seeing Jessica and Heather's smug expressions melt instantly to one of, oh shit. Later that afternoon, my phone was ringing. It was Paula. She was practically crying. She at least sounds like she's sobbing while she pleads, oh Pete, please don't send those emails. I've fired Heather and Jessica. They're done, and please don't quit. What can I do to make this right? Please, OP. Remember, I was always nice to you. Please don't tell anyone about... She's right. I have no beef with her. She has always been nice to me. I'm kind of embarrassed. I tell Paula to relax. I'm not a snitch, against cool people anyway, and not a blackmailer, and I'm not out for blood. At least not her blood. I already quit, and I'm keeping my mouth shut. A few days later, I showed up for my final check. I learned from one of the sales associates that corporate loss prevention was called in. Our corporate office is only a few miles from the retail location to interview both Heather and Jessica about their fraud. Paula had used all of her political and managerial dexterity to frame the situation in such a way that made it look as if she, a responsible and observant manager, had discovered the employee dishonesty. The narrative worked. In lieu of arrest and heavy fines for what amounted to outright grand larceny, Jessica and Heather were simply fired, blacklisted from the store, and due to the store's prominence, to say nothing of cross-company word-to-mouth, blacklisted from working at any other prestigious fashion brands. They were, of course, unable to use the company as a reference, and due to being fired for cause, could not file for unemployment. Jessica's fantasy of being a major player for any fashion label in the capacity is deader than Lennon. Paula is actually in the store that day and practically ran to me, hugging me and thanking me for keeping this scandal at a store level. It's been handled, I swear. I told her no problem. What I didn't tell her is that I never did delete those drafts. She offered me a reward of free merchandise and again asked me to reconsider coming back as a stock person, even a sales associate. No thanks. I'm going to look awfully silly in those dainty little suits at my super cool new job of working at Sizzler. Same salary, lateral career move. LOL. It all ended okay. Paula ended up rising in the company so that she later found a desk at their head office. A year after the whole debacle, I finished my degree, had a short stint as the night manager of Sizzler, but now I'm doing what I really want to do. Except now at my job, guess what we have to wear? Yeah, dainty little suits. I do wear socks though. I need something nice to wear, and work led me back to my old store where Paula was once manager. She didn't work there anymore, but an old phone call from a sales associate to her office, because I said I knew her, led to a nice chat and 3 suits at a generous discount. I refused to take at least one absolutely free, even though she offered, and that's how I found out about her rise in the company. She also told me that it came to light that Jessica and Heather had actually been reselling a lot of the clothes on eBay at a markdown from what the store had, but still a huge profit for themselves. The store found out because they offered to prosecute the 2 women less if they could return the items, but it was too late. They admitted the items were resold at an online auction. Both Jessica and Heather were slapped with huge fines to avoid big girl jail. Paula and I are now social media friends. Those old email drafts? Deleted. I would have never torpedoed Heather and Jessica if they just left me alone to do my job in peace, and didn't try and feel big and important at my expense. I would have left them to live in their self-medicating lies, live and let live. Other than some difficult customers, people like Heather and Jessica are what make working retail such a nightmare for so many, and that's why I feel no guilt about destroying them. I'm sure Jessica had lots to talk about at that year's Milan Fashion Week. Hold this L, bitch. Pretty sure we can get away with one if we talk for 17 minutes straight. TLDR, I was a stock boy at a fancy clothes store. A low-level associate would always boss me around and call me stupid even though she wasn't in charge. I found out she was stealing from the store. I was mean to her on purpose so I'd be called into a manager meeting to be fired. I quit and presented proof to the manager that the associate and the assistant manager were both thieves. They both got fired, and I began work at Sizzler. And there you have it, folks, the end of today's r/ProRevenge. A little longer than normal, but I still hope you enjoyed it. If you did like it, make sure to leave a like on the video, as well as make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. That way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.